Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. How are you? I hope you'll be fine. This is Cambridge Lower Secondary Book 8, and we are doing chapter number 13. We are going to start with exercise 13.2, in which we have to deal with experimental and theoretical probabilities. We are already done with previous questions in Cambridge Lower Secondary Book 7 related to it. So if you haven't been through it, you can go check that out. I'll provide you with a link in the description box. So here this question says a learner shows a coin 50 times. Theoretical probability or experimental probability is based on the experiment being occurred, okay, carried out. So here we are been provided with a learner's experiment of throwing a coin 50 times. You can see that the results of 50 times throwing a coin has been given. There are 5 rows, and each row there are 10 columns. It means that the result is given for 50 times. Now this table shows the results as follows. So what do we have to do next? We have to answer some of the questions given below. The first question says, use the first row of the table to calculate the experimental probability of a head based on the first 10 throws. So we just have to focus on the first row only, this one, and we have to figure out that what would be the experimental probability of head, okay? We have to find out the probability of head only, this one. Okay, out of these outcomes, so if the total number of outcomes is for 10 throws, it would be 10, right? And out of these 10, how many are head? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the probability would be 4 by 10. That's all. You can write it as 4 by 10. You can write it in the simplified form as 2 by 5. Or even you can write it in the decimal form as 0.4 or as percentage. Okay, it's up to you. If it's not mentioned in the question that you have to write down the probability in any specific form, that is in the fraction or in the decimal or in the percentage, then you can write it in any of the 3 forms. But writing it in percentage or decimal is more appropriate. So prefer writing it in decimal or percentage. So it would be better if you write it down in as 0.4 or 40%. After that, what do we have to do? Let's get back to the question. Use the first 2 rows of the table to calculate the experimental probability of a head based on the 20 throws. Now we have to look for the first 2 rows. So since we have already done with part 1, that is the first row, now we will move to the second row. In the first row, we had 4 heads. Now let's look how many heads do we have in the second row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 6 plus 4 makes 10. So it means the probability of the 2 rows would be 10 by 20, which equals to 1 by 2, that is 0.5, or you can say 50%. That is half of the throws are heads and the other half would be tail, right? So the probability would be 0.5 or 50%. Both are correct. Next, we are provided with a part C. In the same way, find the experimental probability of a head based on 30 throws, 40 throws, and 50 throws. So let's do it. So in the third one, we will be finding with the third row, how many heads do we have over here? So here we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 10 plus 7 is 17 upon 50, right? Which will be 0.34 in the decimal form. Sorry, it's not 50, it's 30. The total number of throws in the 3 rows are 30. So we are not going to take 50 as the total, but 30 as the total. And then in the next row, how many more? Only one more. So it would be 18 by 40. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. So 18 plus 4 equals to 22. So it would be 22 upon 50. Now let's try converting it into decimal. So the first one would be around 0.567, or you can say 56.7. Okay. And the second one would be 0.45. That is 45%. And the third one is 0.44. That is about 44%. That's all. You see, students, how easy it is. We just counted the number of heads and the total number of throws. And then we made the fraction, and then we converted it into decimal or in the percentage as follows. Now let's move to the next question, which says, basically the next part, it's compare the experimental probabilities that you have found so far with the theoretical probability of a head. Now we have to calculate the theoretical probability. And how do we calculate the theoretical probability? So the theoretical probability is basically what is the actual probability that if every single time when I will throw the coin, what would be the probability of head and what would be the probability of the tail. So the theoretical probability is based on the number of outcomes basically every single time it has. So every single time the coin has actually two outcomes, head and tail. So the probability of head would be, how many outcomes are there? Total outcomes are 2. And for head, it is 1. For tail, it is 1. So every single time, either whenever I will throw the coin, either it will head or either it will tail. So the probability of head would be 1/2 and that of tail would be 1/2. So we can say that every time the probability of head would be 0.5 or 50%. Okay. But what was the experimental probability? When we talked about the first row, we got 40%. In the second one, we got 50%. It was the same. It was the same since the number of heads we have got in the second one, that is in 20 throws, was the same as the number of tails. So therefore, we are getting the same probability as the theoretical one. But in the third one, we got 0.5, that is 56.7%, then 45%, and then 44%. So it's around what the theoretical probability. Every time we are getting around 40 to 50% as the probability. In the next question, it says, okay, so we can say that how do we compare the experimental probability? We'll say that the theoretical probability is 0.5 and the experimental values are close to this, sometimes more or sometimes less. Sometimes we are having more than 50%, that is like 56.7 is more than 50%. And similarly, yes, only once we have got more probability, and in the next three, we are getting 45%, in 44% and 40%. Okay. So this is how you will compare them. And then in part E, it says the learner throws the coins another 50 times, and here are the results. Now this time the results are a bit different, and use the two sets of results to find the experimental probability of a head based on 100 throws. So we have already calculated how many heads have we got in the first 50. It's 22. Now we have to calculate how many heads do we have in the next 100. So let's calculate them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 1, 2 in the second row. Then 1, 2, 3 in the third row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the fourth row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the next one. So based on 100 rows, we have how many heads? 6 plus 2, 8 plus 3, 11 plus 7, 18 plus 5, 23. So this time the total is 23 by 50. Earlier it was 22 by 50 and now it's 23 by 50. So if we add them up, we are going to get 45 by 100. So the probability would be 0.45 or 45%. That's all. Okay. So the experimental probability would be 0.45, or you can say that 45%. And the difference from 0.5 is 0.05. So this is close to the theoretical probability. That's all. You see how easy it is. What are we doing to find out the experimental probability? We have to count the total number of experiments being carried out, total number of throws. Okay, but to carry out the theoretical probability, we just have to look for the total number of outcomes in every single throw. In every single throw, we have only two outcomes, that is head and tail. So to find out the theoretical probability, we have to focus on only one throw and how many outcomes are in a single throw. And to find out the experimental probability, we have to look for the number of throws, and according to that, we have to calculate the experimental probability. That's all. Next, we have question number 2, which says the spinner has 3 sectors. As you can see here, we are provided with a pie chart having 3 sectors of red, white, and blue. The probability of red is 0.6. They are not giving us with the angles. Always remember that in the angle of a pie chart is always 360 degrees. But they are not giving us the angle. They are just telling us the probability of red is 0.6. Acha, remember that the sum of probabilities is always 1 if we are calculating the probabilities in decimal. So the sum of 0.6, 0.3 and 0.1 would be one whole. Okay, because there are 3 outcomes and the sum of outcomes is always 1 if we are calculating the probability in fractions or in decimals. And if we are calculating the probability in percentage, then the sum of the outcomes would be 100% because 100% means one whole. Both are the same. Just the difference in the writing form. The probability of red is 0.6. We can say that it's 60%. How do we calculate it? Just multiply 0.6 by 100 upon 100. So it's become, or you can simply multiply 0.6 by 100%. So it becomes 60%. It means the probability of red is 60% and that of white is 0.3, that is 30%. And that of blue is obviously 0.1, 10%. So these are the probabilities, 60, 30, and 10. What are they saying next? Let's see. Acha, what is this probability actually? The probability they are telling us is the theoretical probability. This is not the experimental probability. Just like we had 50% probability of head and 50% of tail theoretical probability in the previous question. Same here, we are getting 60, 30, and 10 as the theoretical probabilities. Now we are provided with the results of 50 spins. What are they doing? They are spinning this spinner, and now let's see that what results are we getting. So we are getting R, W, R, R, B, B, B. Sometimes we are getting red, sometimes we are getting whites, and sometimes we are getting even blue. Okay, even if it is very small in number, but still we are getting blue sometimes. So what do we have to do next? We have to see that what questions are given. The question number 2 part A says, use each row to find an experimental probability of red based on 10 spins. So first, we are going to take the first row. Here, how many reds do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of 10 means 50%. Quite less than the theoretical probability. Then let's take the second row. In the second row, how many? Now we do not have to calculate it 10, 20, 30, 40. Every time we have to calculate it in taking a single row. So if we take the second row only, it would be red, 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 5 and 6. So this time we are getting 60%. That is 6 upon 10 is equals to 60%, or you can say 0.6. So this time the probability is exactly the same to the theoretical one. In the third one, we are getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so this time it's 80%. First one was 50%, way less than theoretical. Then it was exactly same as theoretical. Then now it is more than even theoretical. In the fourth one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 70%. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it 80%. So twice we are getting 80%, once only we are getting 60 and 70% and 50% also. Then they're saying find 2 different sets of 25 spins and use them to find the experimental probability of red. So let's take first 20 first, 25 first. Let's take these 25 first. So in the first 2 rows, we have 5 and 6. Let's write the number of reds in the first row. It's 5. There it is 6. And in the next 5, we have 1, 2, 3. So it makes a total of 5 plus 6 plus 3 is equals to 14. So 14 out of 25. The total number of outcomes we have to calculate for 25 spins now. So for the first 25, we are getting 14 by 25 because there are 14 red spins in the first 25. So the probability would be 14 multiplied by 4 equals 56. So it would be 56, that is 56% or 0.56. And for the next 25, we will be having how many? So you can see that in the next 5, we are having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 plus 7 plus 8, because in the last two rows we have 7 and 8 consecutively. So it would be 5 plus 7 plus 8 is equals to 20. So for the next 25, we are having 20 out of 25. You can calculate it because 14 plus 20 makes 34, the total. Okay. And it will be 20 out of 25 is 80%. So the experimental probability for the next 25, for the last 25 spins for red is 0.8 or 80%. Okay, so it's different. In the first one, it's 56%, quite less than 60%, the theoretical probability. But in the second half, we are having 80%, way more than 60%. In part C, they are saying use all 50 spins to find experimental probability of red, white, and blue. So since we have already calculated the number of red, it is 14 plus 20. There are total 34 for the red one. So we will take 34 upon 50. It's for red. And let's count the number of white ones. So it's 1 and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. There are 9 white spins. So for white, we are going to have 9 by 50 out of 50. And then for the blue ones, we have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No more, just 6. Okay. So let's write it down over here. But it must be making a total of, wait. It must be giving us a total of 50. 34 plus 9 plus 6 is not 50. It's 49. It means we are making some mistake out there. So how many white are there? Let us calculate it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we missed one white over here. It is white. So it's 10 out of 50 for white. And then remaining 5 are for blue. So 5 out of 50 is for white. And for blue, it will be 6 out of 50. So the probability of red would be 68% or 0.68. For white, it would be 10% or 0.1. And for blue, it would be 6% or 0.06. 5 upon 50 is 0.1%, that is 10%. And 6 is, 6 is 0.12, not, wait. It's 12%, that is 0.12. So this is the total of the probabilities we are getting. Now in the next part, what do we have to do? Here are the results of 800 spins. Now they are already providing us with the number of results. So it was spun 800 times, and out of 800 times, we got 489 out of 800 red, 218 out of 800 white, 93 out of 800 blue. We have to use these results to find experimental probability for each color. So how can we do that? It's very simple. We have to do the same, that is 489 out of 800, then 218 out of 800, and then 93 out of 800. So let's try to calculate its probability in percentage. For finding it in percentage, it's very simple. We just need to multiply them by 100%. So let's multiply each of them by 100%. 2 zeros will cut 2 zeros from the numerator to the denominator. And then we are left with 489 divided by 8 is equals to around, how much is it? It's 68%. Then 218 divided by 8 is equals to, oh, sorry, it's not 61, it's 61.1%. Okay. And then the second one is around 27.3%. And the third one is, for the blue, it is 11.6%. So the theoretical probability we had got was 30%, which is close to the experimental probability of 27.3%. For red, it was 60%, and now we are getting 61.1%, which is again close. And for blue, it was 3%. But for blue, we are getting 13%, 30%. And now we are getting 11.6% for blue. Sorry, it was 1%. So again, yes, we are close for every of the three spins. Now in part E, what do we have to do? Let's find out. So here we are provided with the statement of Marcus, which says that it is better to use a large number of spins to work out experimental probabilities. Do you agree or not? You have to give a reason for your answer. Yes, we agree with that, because when we calculated the probability on a large scale, that is 800 spins, we are getting the experimental probabilities very close to the theoretical probabilities. The theoretical probability for red was 60%. That of for white, it was 30%, and for blue, it was 10%. So you can see that the experimental probability is again very close. 61.1 is very close to 60, and 27.3 is very close to 30. 11.6 is very close to 10. So if we are going to calculate the probabilities on a large scale, we are going to get it very close to the theoretical probability. But if we are going to take a very small number of experiments, we are getting out it for 25 or 50 or something like that. So we are not going to get the same sort of experimental probability results, because you can see that when we found the experimental probability for 10 spins, we were getting 68%, 10%, 12%, although it was quite close. But when we calculated it for 25 results, so we got 56% and 80%. We were getting very varied answers. So we can say that yes, he is correct, and the values based on 10, 20 or 50 spins vary quite a lot. Okay, as you can see that. So the values based on 800% are close to the theoretical probabilities of 0.6, that is 60%, 0.3, 30%, and 0.11%. That is why we need to calculate it on a scale, large scale. Okay, let's move to next question. This question is about throwing 6 dices together. As you can see, 6 dices, each having 6 outcomes. You see, there are 6 number of dices and there are 6 outcomes on each of the dices. But yes, all the outcomes are similar. And seeing if there is at least one 6. 4 learners each threw 6 dices together a number of times. Here are their results. Arun threw 10 times the 6 dices together, and the frequency of at least 1 6 was 7. That is 7 times there was 1 6 at least. And out of the 10 times, 3 times were there that when he did not get 6 on any of the 6 dices. That is, he would have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 1, but not 6. None of the 6 was having a 6. Out of 10 times, he was having 3 times that there was no 6 on any of the 6 dices. Then Sophia threw it 20 times and she got 6 on at least one of them 9 times. But she missed a single 6 11 times. That is, when she threw the dices 11 times, she did not get a single 6 on any of the dices. When Marcus threw the dice, he threw the dice 40 times and he got 31 times at least a single 6. And for Zara, she threw 50 times and she got 36 sixes. Now we have to work out the experimental probability of at least 1 6 for each learner. So it's very simple. You just have to divide the frequency with the total number of throws, because total always comes in the denominator and the numerator goes in the the outcomes that we have got, that the results we have got comes in the numerator. So it would be like for Arun, it would be 7 upon 10, that is 0.7 straight, or you can say that 70%, right? And for Sophia, it would be 9 upon 20, which is 9 5s are 45. So it would be 0.45 or 45%. And then for Marcus, it would be 31 by 40, which is around, if you multiply 31 by 2.5, you're going to get 77.5% or 0.775. And for Zara, we are getting 36 by 50. That is, the double of 36 is 72. It means Zara has got 0.72 or 72% probability of having at least 1/6 while throwing it together. So it was 0.72. So this is the experimental probability. What we did, we simply took the number of frequencies, put them in the numerator, and the total number of throws, the total number of outcomes, the total number of experiments in the denominator, and we just calculated it. Now we have to combine the 4 sets of results to get another experimental probability. Now what do we have to do? We have to sum up all the frequencies. That is, how many times we have got 6 while throwing 6 dice together. So we will add 7 with 9 with 31 with 36. This is the total number of times they have got at least 1/6 while throwing the dice 10 times, 20 times, and 40 times, and 50 times. So the total number of times all 4 of them threw the dice was 10 plus 20 plus 40 plus 50, which is 120 times. Altogether, they threw the dice 120 times, and out of these 120 times, they have got 6 on at least one of the 6 dice. So it's 40, 76, and then 83 times. So it was 83 times that they have got 6 on at least one of them. So the probability that we are going to get would be 69.17%. If you multiply it by 100%, we are going to get 69%, 69.17%, or in decimal, it would be 0.6917%. Right? So what we did, we simply calculated the total number of results they have got and calculated the total probability. So it was the total number of outcomes was total experiments that were carried out for this one was 120. And out of 120, the desired results were got 83 times. So we did 83 by 120. Then what do we have to do in part C? It says a computer simulated 500 throws. There was at least 1/6, 333 times. So it's very simple. We are already given with all the values. So we will simply put 333 times because they have got the desired result 333 times. And the total number of throws was 500. So let's multiply it by 100% and we are going to get, if we divide 333 with 5, we will get 66.6%. So it's 0.666, or you can say that 66.6%. So this will be the probability. What probability we are getting upon throwing the dice 120 times, we are getting 69.17%, and they are getting 66.6%. So it's quite close because they have carried the experiment a lot of times. So the number of throws are way more than the number of throws of the children. So in part D, they are saying, in fact, the theoretical probability of throwing at least 1/6 is 0.6651. They are already telling us that theoretical probability would be of throwing 1/6 is 0.66651. Compare the experimental probability with that of theoretical probability. Now it's very difficult to calculate the theoretical probability of 1/6. Why? Because we have to make so many combinations, like having 5 1s and 1 2, and then 5 1s, 1 3, 5 1s, 1 4. That is, we are getting 1s on 5 dices, and only the next one is having 2, and then 3, then 4, then 5, and then 6. Again, 5 1s, and 1 6. Okay. Similarly, we can say that the first one would be 6 ones. All 6 would be ones. All 6 would be twos. All 6 would be threes. All 6 would be fours. That is, all the dices will be showing ones on the top. Okay. All the dices will be showing twos. All the 6 dices will be showing threes. So these will be 6 outcomes. And then 5 will be showing 1 and the other one 2. 5 will be showing 1 and the other 3. So these will be 5 outcomes. Similarly, we will have the same sort of outcomes for the other 5. That is 5 showing 2 and other 1. 5 showing 2 and the sixth one showing 3. 5 showing 2 and the sixth one showing 4. Similarly, these outcomes would be for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is how we are going to get 60 more outcomes. Then 4 showing ones and the other showing 2. The other showing 2 each, and 4 showing 1 and the other 2 showing 3, and likewise. So there would be multiple and multiple and multiple times of uh, theoretical probability. It's not possible for us to calculate the theoretical probability uh, uh, in a just in just few minutes. So they have already calculated the theoretical probability for us, which is 66.51, and we just have to compare it with that of the experimental probability. So the experimental probability we are getting is 66.6%, and they are getting 0.6651%. So the experimental probability based on the small samples of the learners vary a lot, and the experimental probability based on the learner's combined results is closer to the true value. However, the experimental probability based on 500 throws is very closer to the theoretical probability, and the difference is of 0.000009. So it's very close. 66.6% and 66.51% has a very little difference, which is almost nothing. So it means that when we are going to calculate the values based on a large number of scale, then the theoretical probability and the experimental probability would be very close to each other. That's all. Okay, so if this type of question comes in your exam, you can write this answer. So for now, we are done with theory questions. Inshallah, in the next video, we are going to do a few more. Until then, take care. If you are new to my channel, don't forget to share it with your friends and subscribe to my channel. Take care. Allah Hafiz.